Orleans. Dahr, the issue of these toxic dispersants isn't a new one, but to what extent did BP use them, and how dangerous really are these chemicals?
BP admits to using at least 1.9 million gallons of the dispersants Corexit 9500 and Corexit 9527. These are known to be basically what are amounts to an industrial solvent, and the problem is with these dispersants, toxic enough on their own, when mixed with oil, scientists and chemists, specifically Bob Naiman, who I mentioned in the article from Mobile, Alabama, an analytical chemist, said that the problem is they then, a chemical is released from them called polyaromatic hydrocarbons, and that's what's making people sick. It's extremely toxic. It's mutagenic, it's carcinogenic, it's teratogenic, and it breaks down red blood cells, and it's causing both respiratory and other types of problems, particularly central nervous system problems. So people across the coast in Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida are reporting really horrible symptoms like heart palpitations, dizziness, disorientation, bleeding from their ears, their nose, their rectums. There has been, according to marine biologist and toxicologist Dr. Ricky Ott, as many as 3 deaths that may well be attributed to this as well.
But Dahr, is there a wider acceptance, though, that the use of dispersants was necessary to break up the spill that was spreading in the air? I mean, what other options were there open to BP at the time? I mean, they appeared to clean up the spill pretty quickly, didn't they?
Well, they didn't clean up the spill. There's actually been numerous independent scientific reports, particularly out of University of Georgia and University of South Florida, who show that the vast majority of the oil remains in plumes as well as possibly on the sea beds. The rationale that BP used for using so much dispersant was that the idea was they had to keep the oil from reaching the coast and the marshlands at all costs, so therefore it behooved them to sink it. But what actually a lot of people, even inside the oil industry that I've talked with directly, said they feel that this was a very bad idea, because if they had simply allowed all the oil to come up onto the surface and leave it there, most of it could have probably been skimmed or burned off.
So, Dahr, just finally, I mean, what are the authorities along the Louisiana coastline saying? I mean, is there a health warning that people shouldn't swim in the water or eat the local seafood from the sea?
Unfortunately not, because state governments are under their own pressures for economic reasons, primarily to keep business as usual for the drilling industry, and of course the tourism business that employs just over 500,000 people for the Gulf Coast does not want to sound alarm bells and keep people from coming to the beaches. So unfortunately not, but the problem is this is a health catastrophe that seems to be worsening over time instead of getting better, and local clinics are seeing growing numbers of people with these classic symptoms of respiratory problems, the headaches, the nausea, the sore throats, the coughing, and they're diagnosing it as sinus infections, viral infections, and treating it as such, but actually it's chemical poisoning, and this is the real problem.
All right, Dahr Jamail, our web correspondent there in New Orleans. Dahr, thank you very much indeed.